Today's verses are from Matthew chapter 12, verses 38 through 42. Before we start, I'd like to ask a question. Does faith require a sign? Well, let's look at the verses today and see if we can come up with the answer to that. Verse 38, then some of the scribes and Pharisees answered him, saying, Teacher, we wish to see a sign from you. Now, their demand for a sign was for something miraculous and compelling, but it also betrayed their unbelief and their hardened hearts. Let's see what Jesus says. Verse 39, but he answered them, an evil and adulterous generation seeks for a sign, but no sign will be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. For just as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. Well, we know what evil is. Adulterous is not just physical adultery. This is something more. This is infidelity to God. Apostasy is the word that some translators use here. And this would not have been lost on these religious scholars. Now, the sign of the Jonah most likely refers to Jonah's experience before he went to Nineveh. 3 days and 3 nights comes directly from Jonah chapter 1, verse 17. And the phrase, in the heart of the earth, most interpreters think this is the grave, but it could also refer to Sheol or hell, which is what Jonah used in chapter 2 during his prayer. Either way, this analogy and the reference would not have been lost on this generation. And also, it would have brought to mind the miraculous recovery and deliverance of Jonah and the consequences of his ministry to the Ninevites. Now let's look at verse 41. The men of Nineveh will rise up at the judgment with this generation and condemn it, for they repented at the preaching of Jonah, and behold, something greater than Jonah is here. Well, they did repent, even though Jonah was a fairly reluctant preacher and didn't want them to repent. But the Israelites are in a worse shape here because they have seen Jesus the Messiah. They did not believe it, and they would not repent. Verse 42, the queen of the south will rise up at the judgment with this generation and condemn it, for she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and behold, something greater than Solomon is here. This is another Old Testament reference, the queen of the south. You can find this in 1 Kings chapter 10, verses 1 through 9. The queen of the south is the queen of Sheba. Sheba was a part of southern Arabia. Today it is called Yemen, so it's down the southern tip of Arabia. Now let me read a couple of excerpts from verses 6 through 9 of 1 Kings 10, what the queen of the south's testimony was. Excuse me. I did not believe, but I have seen it. Your wisdom surpasses what I heard. Blessed be the Lord your God, who has delighted in you and made you king to execute justice and righteousness. So she repented of her error and acknowledged Solomon's wisdom and greatness. But Solomon, as wise as he was and as great and powerful as he was a king, those were both limited. Jesus' wisdom and greatness and power are infinite. And the queen of the south, as well as the Ninevites, will be witnesses against these unbelieving Jews during the judgment day. Now, what can we sum up from this? Well, first, true faith does not require a sign, but it does require the willingness to believe. Also, the question that was unspoken to the generation or to the scribes and the Pharisees, we can verbalize today and say, what is our reaction when we are approached or confront Jesus Christ? Is it hostility like the scribes and the Pharisees were? Is it indifference? Or is it humble acceptance of God's warning and his offer of forgiveness, as the Ninevites proclaimed and also the queen of the south? I hope today's words have been encouraging for you and look forward to joining us tomorrow. Thanks.